It's literally punishment. Why are we punishing ourselves by depriving ourselves of sleep? Hey everyone, this is Ariana with the Blissy Experience. We're so happy to have you back, and we're really excited for today's guest. Today we're going to be diving into the impact of sleep on mental health. I know this is such an important topic for so many of us. You have such great experience working with college students, with couples, in your own life. I want to dive into all of these things, but let's just start with a little bit of background on yourself.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. My name is Kendall Ferrari. So I am an associate marriage and family therapist. I've recently graduated with my master's in counseling psychology. Thank you. Yes, exciting.
That's a big deal.
It is. So I have been seeing clients for the past year, like you said, working primarily with college age students, which has been just an absolute pleasure. They're a really fun age group. I love that work. I'm married to a fireman. My dad's also a fireman. So I have a decent amount of insight into the first responder world as well. And I would say that for both of these populations here, sleep is a huge factor.
Absolutely. And then even in your own personal life, I mean, doing your master's degree, I know that you also were working on kind of a dual certification during your master's, getting married, I'm sure planning a wedding, all of these things. Sleep has such an impact on our ability to be productive and to live happy, healthy lives, right?
Totally. You said it very well. I know for sure when I'm not getting enough sleep. I can feel it. I know when my sleep's not restful. I think in any of these, life is stressful, whatever we're kind of going after. So whether it was my master's degree, getting married, or whatever other endeavor, when I'm not rested, I feel it. And it just impacts everything. So I feel like it's like the foundation step you need to be successful at whatever you're doing.
At literally everything. I could not agree more. Let's start with the college students. I remember when I was in college, I was extremely sleep deprived. I mean, just constantly. I feel like it depended on, the time of year. Sometimes obviously when you're crunching for finals, or when there's just more events going on, social events. But all I know is, I noticed it. I mean, my grades started to go down. My health started to decline. I was getting sick more often. And I just remember feeling like it was impossible to try to balance it all. So what have you learned about helping college students find that balance and being able to prioritize sleep in order to create more efficiency in the rest of your hours in the day?
Yeah, absolutely. As you were saying that, a thought that came to mind for me of just what I've seen with college students, working with them recently, but then also with my own experience, because yes, I was sleep deprived during both my bachelor's and my master's, but I would say worse during my bachelor's degree, because I did hone in some of those skills for myself a little bit better by the time I was in my master's program. I think sleep is the first thing that people will choose to kind of sacrifice when they've got stuff on their plate. So if an assignment needs to be done or whatever, they'll have less sleep, they'll drink more coffee, and it just kind of it's like
never-ending cycle.
Yes, you think you can make up for sleep by just pushing through, having more caffeine, and unfortunately I don't think that that's a very sustainable way to go about things. You might be able to do that for a day or two, right? Finals week, I get it. You might need to study more than, I'm going to just sleep and hope for the best, but that doesn't work all semester long. So in working with college students, I oftentimes will help them, especially if it's a freshman year, right? Freshman year, I feel like you have no idea how you need to structure your life to do this.
None of us had any idea about anything our freshman year, I feel like.
I personally was under such a terrible impression that I could just do everything like I did in high school and pass. And pass with A's. That was not the case.
Yeah, a rude awakening there.
Yes,
we all felt it.
So you're going through that, and then you realize, okay, I've got to make some kind of change, have some kind of additional structure for myself. So I do a lot of that kind of work with my clients that are in this kind of life phase of, okay, you're totally in charge of your own time now. What does that look like? How do we make adjustments so that you can kind of check all of these boxes successfully? You might have to make little sacrifices here or there, but what's happening with your sleep pattern, that either you're having trouble sleeping or you're not getting to bed sooner. How long are you looking at your phone at night?
Sure.
When's the last cup of coffee happening? Things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you find that college students are often aware that they need more sleep?
I would say it's like yes and no.
Okay.
Or they may be aware of it, but kind of not making it a priority for themselves.
Kind of like, I know I should be getting more sleep, but...
Yeah. But I want to go out with my friends.
Right.
Or I want to do this thing. Well, now, because I did this activity, I don't have the time to study, so I'm going to stay up late. And kind of things like that.
Yeah. So did you work with students where they were willing to try making a change? Let's just say they were like, I'm going to go to bed a half hour earlier and therefore hope for better results in my waking hours, that, I can create more efficiency in my studying. I can have a stronger memory so that I don't need to study technically as long. Did you feel like there were some tangible results there when they were prioritizing sleep more?
Absolutely. I think, one of the biggest things in my line of work is people have to want to make that change for themselves first and foremost. And
Absolutely.
when that is something where it's their priority, their goal for themselves, and we kind of go through, okay, so what are some options for you as we look at your life? Even just the small change for a lot of my clients of changing when they stop looking at their phone for the evening. I was actually blown away by how many people said, yeah, I'm sleeping better because I'm reading a book at night instead of scrolling, social media apps, trying to fall asleep that way, or watching TV or whatever.
Yeah.
I noticed that a lot of people, when they made changes like that, their rest, they got to sleep quicker, and it was more restful sleep for them.
What does that look like if somebody is watching and they're considering, we've all been there where we're like, I know, really, I should probably put my phone on silent and like put it in airplane mode, or you've heard of people putting it in a different room for the night. What do you feel like is the method that is easy enough to do, not too big, scary of a commitment, but that does make a meaningful impact on your sleep?
Yeah, I don't know that there's a perfect answer for everybody, right? Because we've all got different life situations. I know what can work for many is to have where your phone is pre-set up with the do not disturbs that start at certain times of the evening, right? So you're not getting inundated with notifications or whatever after, let's just say it was 8:30 at night for you, or whatever time frame you want to set for yourself. I think there's an intentionality piece too of, so you've got to know yourself. If your phone's on do not disturb and it's sitting on your nightstand, do you have that ability, kind of that, is that discipline there? Yeah, to leave it and do something else. And if the answer's no right now, that's okay too. Let's look at what else do we need to do. Maybe it's being in another room or something else, or even I think a great thing is finding another something you're looking forward to, so it doesn't feel like such a chore or a takeaway. For me, that would be picking up my book. Great, I know at this time at night when I'm in bed, I can't wait to read.
I get to do this other thing. I love that, making it a positive in your routine, that it's not, I have to do this, right? In general, I noticed in life that when I have to do something versus, I get to do this because I know that it makes me feel great. I know that it helps me sleep more deeply. I know that I feel more rested in the morning, or overall, I just feel healthier. I know that that's a huge benefit. So I'm really glad to hear that, even college students are ready to kind of take that leap at some point.
They are. The college students, like I said, I love this population. They surprise me a lot, especially, so I'm basically seeing Gen Z right now. And I think Gen Z is so in tune and aware of mental health in a way that not every generation at this developmental stage is interested in. So I think I see them kind of having a little bit more of that attitude of, I get to, this is important, I want to prioritize it, because they've grown up with maybe just a bit more importance kind of on this topic.
Kind of normalizing what it means to take care of yourself, take care of your mental health, and that doesn't have to be such a big, scary word. I talk to my friends about this as a millennial quite often, where I'm like, we're kind of the in-between generation where it is normalized. I mean, like, I love my therapist. I've been working with my therapist for years, like through just different stages of life. It's like, of course I want to have somebody that I can just talk to about things that come up, or life happens and changes and evolves. So it's very normal for me, not very normal for my parents' generation. I'm kind of like planting the seeds needs where I can. But then you have my nieces and nephews who are like in high school at this point, and it is like beyond normal for them to be talking about just mental health in general. And again, I know sleep is such a huge part of that. I want to talk a little bit about the first responder space. This is something that, like you mentioned, you have very personal experience with, both from your own father and now your husband. Can you share with us how they are uniquely impacted by sleep?
Yeah, it is such a important community, as we know, and their lifestyle is unlike most other people in our like everyday society community. The sleep impact, obviously, it's going to be different from department to department. My husband and dad work for the same department. They go through a very, very high call volume, one of the highest in the country. So their sleep is, every now and then they get a night where they slept through the night, but more times than not, kind of in the first responder community, the question we ask them in the morning to know what it looks like coming home is how many after midnight, which means how many calls did you go on after midnight?
Wow.
And as a wife, that lets me know how exhausted is my husband coming home today.
Yeah.
And so that's a norm for us. Their sleep is so important. And there's an interesting crossover, I would say, in the first responder community with sleep and mental health and all of it. And it's a community that's a little bit harder to kind of touch on the mental health topics and where sleep ties in, because there's a little bit of a stereotype that come with a lot of people in these communities that serve us, and oftentimes they want to just kind of stay strong and push through and
be that anchor of strength.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they're not super focused on maybe coming home in their downtime and getting the rest that they lost.
Yeah.
On the whole 24, most firemen work a minimum of a 24-hour shift. Sometimes their shifts are 48 plus hours long.
Oh my gosh.
My dad and husband have sometimes worked 120 hours straight. So
no way.
Yeah, that can be normal if there's a need for overtime and things like that. So as you can imagine, they're exhausted. They really, whether they want to or not, should probably come home and sleep.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a lot more awareness now of what sleep deprivation does to the brain. I mean, it's actually used as, a
torture
tactic. Yep, that's what I was getting to. It's a torture tactic.
I believe it. I know when I'm underslept, I absolutely can see the effectiveness. I mean, I have a glimpse, if you will, of like why that would be used for a torture tactic, because it really is. My body cannot function the same way. I notice I can't eat when I'm underslept. My digestive system kind of just shuts down altogether. The brain fog, the fatigue, irritability, attitude, perspective, communication skills, all of it goes out the window. So I can only imagine how important it is, especially for first responders who, when they're awake and on duty, they need to be as sharp as it gets to make those, spontaneous, instant decisions.
Totally. And that is a really hard part. Is like you're doing your best to think straight. And then I've noticed something for them too as well. It's not just something I've noticed. There's actually studies that have been done on it, but they're kind of in work mode while they're there, while they're on duty. They're in this high level of alertness. So even being in this heightened alertness, that's like an extra kind of mental drain on you. And so when they get home, not only are they tired from lack of sleep and working for so long, but there's kind of this like mental dump that happens of you were on high alert for so long. Now you're home and you've got like this extra level of exhaustion because your body finally got to go into, I don't need to be alert and ready for the next, call or danger or whatever. So they come home. I see it on my husband all the time where he gets home and at first he's kind of a little bit energized still.
Okay.
And after he's had a moment, maybe eats some breakfast or something like that, then it's like it just a wave hits him. And you could tell sometimes he wants to stay up and keep doing stuff, and I always encourage him. I'm like, why don't you just go sleep for an hour or so? I think you'll feel a lot better. And it's so important. But often overlooked in that community.
I'm sure. Wow. I mean, I can only imagine. And I also just want to take a moment, of course, to thank our first responders.
Yes.
I mean, what a lifestyle. What a commitment.
Yes, absolutely. I have nothing but respect and gratitude for that community. The families behind the first responder communities, it takes a village. It's a lifestyle kind of for everybody.
Yeah.
There's, beautiful pros and cons.
Yeah.
But definitely not without sacrifice.
Yeah.
All around.
Yeah, and something that all of us rely on, whether or not we have a family member, or a close friend in our own lives that's a first responder. We have first responders in all of our lives because they're out there taking care of us every single day. So thank you to both of you.
Oh.
But when he does come home to take a nap, do you have any kind of sleep hygiene practices that you have him do to help him get more restful sleep when he is home?
Yeah, I feel like we have a good little setup, but keep in mind this is years of kind of figuring out what works and encouraging this this habit a little bit.
Yeah.
So I would say for us, we'll close all the blinds in our room, which is, I'm like, let's make it a good nap.
Yeah.
He has a little eye mask that even I'm like, just put that on. We run the air filter.
Like for a little noise,
a little white noise.
Yeah, love that.
And get that dog dander out of there.
Yeah. That helps too.
Yeah. And honestly, like the bed setup, clean sheets, nice, comfortable. Like you want to get in bed and just be that immediate sense of like comfort and home in your bed. Like everybody knows what that feels like.
Oh,
right?
I love that feeling. Oh, there's like very few things in life that are better than that.
Yeah. It's I think the ultimate level of comfort is to be like cozy, clean in your bed. And I
love that, cozy and clean.
Yes. Yeah, you have to be clean.
Yes.
Like, that's a thing too.
There's nothing like that moment where you're like, how many days have I gone since I washed my sheets? Really?
Yeah.
I try. I'm definitely like, I try to be at least once a week, but the occasional time where I'm like, oh man, my weekend was crazy and I kind of forgot to. I notice the difference when it doesn't have that fresh feel.
You can feel it, and I think especially like on your pillowcase.
Oh yeah, the pillowcase. There's so much that can get on there.
Like your whole face is pressed up onto it.
You're just smothering yourself with this fabric over and over again.
Yeah, so we actually both have silk pillowcases.
Okay,
love it. We love them. I got mine first, and I kept noticing him using it. Like, maybe we should get you
love
one.
Love how that happens. You're all, hey babe, I'm noticing that this is mine is becoming yours, which is beautiful. Maybe we get two of them.
Yes, exactly that. I was like, we'll just grab you one so that we can both have one.
Yeah.
And I feel like after you try one, you can't go back. They're just, they feel so much better than like whatever comes with your sheet set.
Yeah.
And so I love it. So it's definitely part of our, if I was going to break down what makes up what I feel like we have good sleep patterns in our house, that's definitely part of it for us.
Wow. Yeah, and I love what you just mentioned about, when you buy a sheet set, it comes with pillowcases, of course, but I think about skincare. So, if you're someone who's really into your skincare routine, or even just using lotion versus face moisturizer, you know that there are different products for your face skin than for your body skin, right? It's thinner. Mine is definitely more delicate. It's more sensitive. It's the place that I break out.
Yes.
There's so many factors that set your skin on your face apart from the rest of your body. So it's a great point that you make that why wouldn't we use a product for our face skin that's different than our body skin, even in bed?
Totally. Absolutely. And I know it makes a huge difference of different materials all that nice quality skincare you're talking about, it sucks it right off your face.
Those cotton pillowcases.
Yeah. And so it's kind of like it's counteractive if you're not completing, I think of it as kind of completing the skincare cycle.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. But it's like kind of the last step of your nighttime skincare routine.
Absolutely.
I love that.
And for another reason I got mine originally was for my hair, because you can, I don't know if you can feel, I can actually feel when I'm laying there, like the tension pulling on these little baby hairs where it's just normal to have, either less hair or a little bit of hair loss.
And it's also the most delicate hair.
Yes.
Around the rim. I mean, I notice on the back as well, like the baby hairs around the back. And it's normal to have some baby hairs back there, but I noticed so much more breakage before I started using a silk pillowcase that it was just constant. I would wake up and there's little hairs on my pillow. And I'm like, that wasn't there when I went to bed.
Yes, exactly. I had the exact same experience. And I feel like it's one of those things that, like, all these things combined, I just... If I have to like go to a hotel, I'm like, I can't wait to get home to my pillow.
Yeah. I mean, I have admittedly started packing certain things with me when I go, where I'm like, this is something that I want to be able to have with me when I'm at home, when I'm on the road, especially when you're on the road, right? It's also even just sleeping in hotels when you're traveling, when you're staying with family members and you're sleeping in a bed that's different than your own. My fiance, John, he's actually the one who... Not only does he bring our pillowcases, he brings our pillows if it's
love
a
it.
road trip. I mean, I have yet to like allow him to check a pillow on a plane. But if we do a lot of road trips, we love road tripping. And anytime we are going to take a car to go to where we're going, the 2 pillows are in the back seat. Like that's how serious it is.
I'll be honest. I'm like your fiance.
Okay.
I will.
No, it's actually genius.
Yeah, I will bring them, especially if it's a road trip. It's like, well, and then if you're the passenger, you can like take a little moment to sleep.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, we bring them. It's like those little pieces of comfort that you know. I mean, if we want to talk it right back to sleep health, you know, you're going to sleep different when you're somewhere else. Just it's not your normal environment.
Totally.
But there's those like little pieces you can control and maybe be more comfortable. And so for me, that's totally a piece is like knowing I'm going to be most comfortable on my pillow that my neck is used to and my pillowcase that I'm like comfortable with. So I feel like all of those are, you know, I don't want to go somewhere and be on vacation having fun, but I slept terrible.
Yep.
And so I'm like not having a good time.
I know. And then
cranky.
in the daytime, you can't have a great time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. If you're exhausted and your neck is like all cricked in a weird way.
Yep.
No, it makes all the difference.
Yeah, sleep is everything.
I'm so curious about just your general setup. I mean, I love that you have spent years, you were mentioning, kind of like putting together your sleep routine, your sleep environment. Can you like describe for us what that whole environment is like?
Yeah, I try to keep our room really nice and clean because I feel like I mentally sleep better if I know the room I'm in is clean.
Yeah.
So I don't know why that is, but
no, there's got to be a phenomenon there. Tell us if you also experience this, but I absolutely noticed that. I have a tendency to not want to unpack when I get back from a trip. So I have like a place in our room that I'll like unzip my bag because of course I need to get like my hygiene kit back out and, you know, my favorite pair of jeans, and then it will sit there for a few days and I notice that I don't sleep as well before I put it away.
Yep. I have this I do the exact same thing. Some people, whoever are the people that get home and unpack their bag immediately, I mean, I hope to be like you one day.
You're inspiring to all of us.
That's not me. Sometimes, I mean, it's there longer than I'd like to admit.
Yes, same.
Yeah, I'm like, I'll go grab things I need out of it.
Yeah, totally. I mean, once it gets to the point where I'm like, okay, I have literally worn everything and that has how I have unpacked that entire bag, that's when I know that it took that long.
I've done it too. So we're all doing it. But I'm mentally feeling bad about it the entire time. And sometimes I remind myself, I'm like, that chore is going to take me 5 minutes or less.
Yep.
And I'm going to feel so much better.
Yep.
But I just put this off for a week.
Yep.
And felt terrible about it every day. It's so silly when you think about it like that.
We're funny creatures, I will tell you that much.
We are.
Yes.
Well, I'm a therapist and I do it too, so.
I was going to say, well, I think just, you know, and we'll get back obviously to your sleep environment, but just in general, I've noticed with mental health, all these things that it's like, I know that this will only take me a few minutes and I'll feel so much better, like doing a simple meditation or just taking a walk outside or, you know, small things like that. And for some reason we resist it. And it's just welcome to being human. It is okay. It is okay. And that's why we talk about it, to be like, you feel that too? Hey, I feel that too. Why don't we like text each other and have a little accountability group, you know, and kind of encourage each other.
I love that. I think the accountability piece is huge and is definitely helpful in so many areas with mental health. Absolutely.
So talk to me about your sleep environment. So you like to have a clean room.
Yes. So clean room. For me, it has to be dark. Like I don't know. Well, and it's not like it's just a me thing. I know light affects us so much. Like it's really important for you first thing in the morning. I believe it's with the, I might say it wrong, circadian rhythm. Yeah. And so that's something that like first thing in the morning, my husband and I both will open up blinds and just like kind of look outside, look at the sunlight for a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, for me, the same goes when I need sleep. Like I don't want to have on any lights. I don't want to see like if there are items that charge that you can see the little red or green lights. I try to avoid that kind of stuff too. I just feel that I sleep better.
It just makes a difference.
Yeah. And so some kind of a white noise thing is big for me. I like it cold. So does my husband. So
same.
The AC, just being like, I feel like all these things that if you take a moment to stop and think about like, where do I get the best rest or how do I get the best rest? I mean, even as simple as for me, I like to shower right before bed. Like I want to feel so clean. Yeah. When I actually sleep better. Yeah. Mentally versus thinking about
wash off the day.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah.
So all of these little elements, I feel like my husband and I have taken the time, not like we sat and had a conversation like this, but over time of realizing this is the routine that creates the most restful uninterrupted sleep for us.
Yeah.
So we kind of have this rhythm we go through. And I know it's important because neither one of us want to be cranky for work or just not feeling our best, because you kind of can't give 100% of yourself anywhere if you don't even wake up at 100%, right?
If you're loving this show, be sure to give it a like and give us a comment. Maybe ask any questions that you want us to cover in future podcasts. And also, if you haven't had a chance to check out Blissy yet and experience the magic that is 100% pure mulberry silk, be sure to just go to blissy.com to get the best sleep of your life. Kendall, I want to talk about men and silk pillowcases. I think as women, it's kind of like, oh, it's part of my beauty routine. It's part of my skincare routine. But I know a lot of us have either partners that are men, friends, brothers. You know, if you're watching and you're a man and you're wondering, could this potentially fit into my routine? And what does that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I am all for team like silk pillowcases for everybody. And apparently my husband is too, because like I mentioned, he loved mine so much. He was like, I kept finding him using it. I'm like, okay, we're going to get you your own.
You're like, sharing is caring, but when we're on one pillow, it gets tight.
Not on the pillowcase. Yeah. Like, I don't want your drool on my pillowcase, please.
Yes. Sharing drool is not caring.
Not caring.
Yeah.
So I mean, yes, I think there's the element, like if you're a guy and you use skincare, I think like it's awesome because skincare is a great practice. But if you're not, the silk pillowcase is still going to be like so much softer on your skin too, right? So there's that aspect of it, and it's gonna have the same effect for hair for guys. Like guys still probably want to keep their hair not pulled out too.
The bed head can be crazy, on the back, how it's getting pulled in so many different directions. Sometimes it can almost show more on guys, I think, bed head, because their hair is shorter, and so it can kind of be like sprawled out and pulled in all crazy directions.
Totally. So it's like all those same things still apply, and then I think the things that are like a little bit less talked about with the silk pillowcase is there's just a true comfort aspect of it. I notice that mine always feels cooler to the touch than like regular sheets or regular cotton or whatever, right? So that's just comfortable. I mean, you do sleep better if your body temperature cools. I believe your temperature has to come down about 1 degree to successfully fall asleep. Yeah. So that's awesome.
And I know a lot of guys also run hot.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I'm sure I'm not the only one who's like trying to snuggle with their husband before bed. And then he is like, okay, I'm hot.
Leave me alone.
So you go to your respective sides of the bed and say goodnight from afar.
Yeah. No, 100%. It's totally cooler. I noticed like as soon as I started switching to silk, I was like, I noticed that I fall asleep faster. I notice I stay asleep. That temperature has a lot to do for me with staying asleep. Like even if you're someone who you're exhausted at the end of the day and you like hit the pillow and fall asleep, that doesn't mean you're getting restful sleep while you're asleep, and it doesn't mean that you're going to stay asleep the entire night.
Totally. I could not agree more. I mean, my husband has actually said, I wish our entire sheets could be this silk.
The mulberry silk?
Yes, because it's so soft, and it keeps you cool. Like, I'm sure everybody knows what it's like to flip your pillow to try to find the cool spot.
Yeah.
Right?
Like,
in the middle of the night.
And even just like shifting on the bed to try to find the cool spot.
The cool spot. So I think that there's totally more opportunities for that. And you're right. Like if you don't wake up hot in the middle of the night, you're getting more restful sleep.
Yeah.
And so there's that aspect of it. And just, I don't know, for me, like it's really important to hit my bed at night and just relax quicker. I'm going to fall asleep quicker if I'm relaxed and comfortable. And so having a pillowcase that's soft and enjoyable is part of it for both my husband and I, So we love them and swear by them. I think that they're just a comfort piece for everybody, like first and foremost. And then there's those other benefits too, but I'd just pick it for comfort.
Yeah, if that was the only benefit. And there were so many more. I mean, I love what you said about a silk pillowcase almost being the skincare routine for some men. I love that with silk, I don't get stuck on the fabric. So I know like for Johnny, my fiance, he doesn't put moisturizer on his face before he goes to bed. He doesn't put on serums. He doesn't, apply all these products. We're lucky if he washes his face before bed, right? But once he's on the pillow, it makes a difference for anyone's face if it's being scrunched or pulled or squeezed. Those fine lines can set in. So I find it is also anti-aging for men in a way that they don't have to proactively do anything new in their routine. They don't have to apply any products to their face, but it is going to help prevent that that early aging. It's going to prevent those extra wrinkles from setting in too early. And like you said, just provide a much more comfortable environment for their skin to lie down on.
Yes, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And I do think it's like the easiest step one that you could take, male or female. And
maybe the only step.
Yeah.
You know, your
if
whole
it's the
life.
only
like,
step, it's better than no step.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Like, and then, then everything else from there. I think too, it's one of those things like, if I don't know. I mean, my husband he never thought it was like strange at all to have a silk pillowcase. He like really was like, wow, this is soft and comfortable. I'm like,
yeah, why wouldn't I want this?
Yeah. And so I feel like it's one of those things like after you feel one too, it's such a unique texture, like a true silk, 100% silk pillowcase. Like we all know what satin feels like. It's not the same thing.
It's a little rougher.
Yeah. So after you feel it and experience it, I think it's hard to just not want that type of like luxurious feeling on your skin, especially for your face.
Well, for your face and also facial hair.
Yeah.
You know, I would imagine.
The stubble.
Oh, the stubble. Like, I mean, I just think about my leg hair. Like if I haven't shaved for a few days, like I notice that those hairs get caught on anything. I mean, if there's any kind of like rough fabric going on, I would feel that. So I can only imagine that sensation being on my face.
Yeah.
That, you know, if I had a beard and you lay down, it's getting caught at all.
Yeah.
And even if it's something that if you've been sleeping on a cotton pillowcase your whole life, it might be something you're so used to that you don't even realize it's happening until you experience a silk pillowcase. And like in the instance with your husband, all of a sudden he was like, and thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah, absolutely. And I was thinking as you were saying that with like for men with true like facial hair that they keep like, you know, as like a styled beard or things like that, I imagine that extra pulling could be part of like ingrown hairs.
Ingrown hairs, patchiness.
Yeah. And that's got to be, can't relate to that on your face, but I imagine it's quite uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I want to talk more about the impacts of sleep on relationships in general, in couples, and really in all of our relationships in our lives with, you know, with anyone that we interact with on a daily basis. What have you learned through your training, through your practice, and through your own marriage of how sleep, getting enough of it or not getting enough of it, impacts things?
Yeah. You know, sleep, as we kind of chatted about earlier today, it's such a foundational piece of our functioning as humans, right? And so it's really hard to show up and be successful, like we've said, in any capacity. And that's going to translate right into your relationship, in your ability to communicate kindly, successfully with your partner. And I think a lot of people can relate to the fact that communication issues are just one of the most prevalent, right, that we're dealing with in our relationships. And so if you aren't rested and you're short and snippy with your partner on a regular basis, that really compounds over time, right? There's a lot to be said with like the patterns you establish with your partner of how you communicate together, how you connect with each other, even if it's not that you're being rude, let's say, because you're tired, but just that you're kind of not acknowledging your partner.
Maybe not as present.
Yes, absolutely. There's a style of therapy by Gottman's therapy that I really love and gravitate towards for couples. And one of the things that they talk about in this theory is bids for attention and like bids for you know, your partner's time, basically. And when you make these efforts, right, you kind of extend a branch to your partner, and your partner has the opportunity to either kind of take that bid and like feed into that with you, or they don't acknowledge it, or they push it away. And partners who continually turn toward each other when they give each other bids for this attention are much more successful in terms of like divorce rates and things like that.
That makes sense.
Because you want to feel like when you try to connect with your partner that they're there for you and they're listening to you, right? We can't get it right every single time.
Of course.
So I think sleep is part of that. Of if you're just not rested and your brain's not even functioning at its normal capacity, it's going to be a lot harder for you to give your partner kind of some of that intentional time and that they're looking for.
That energy, that attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That makes perfect sense. I know that having a partner that you feel like they are present when you need them, you know, that they're willing to receive that bid for attention. I love that phrase. I think that's such a great way to summarize something that we all need, you know, men, women, couples, relationships, anybody, you know, really needs that. And I know when I'm sleep deprived, it's hard enough for me to give attention to just my basic needs and actions throughout the day, let alone really being able to be there for my loved ones.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is. It's like you're trying to pour out of a cup that's not full and not functioning. And we all know what that feels like, whether it's sleep or like other things in life. Like your cup's not always full. But I think that the sleep piece, if that's continually an empty cup for you, it's super, super hard to give enough of your energy to anything in your life. And your loved ones will be some of the first to suffer, especially if it's your partner that you're used to on a regular basis. Like we kind of, I feel like this may be a bit of an overgeneralization, but I think many of us know how to kind of put on our best face for the places we like have to, right? We have to show up to work and be a certain way. We have to behave this way in this setting. But then where are we going to let it slip the quickest if we're tired? Or it's like usually in the home.
In the home. Yeah. And how ironic that those are our deepest loved people in our lives, and yet they can oftentimes get the weaker sides of ourselves.
Yep, you said it so well, and they do. And it's like, and when you take a moment to like actually cognitively think about that, it's like that. Even for me, it's that moment of like, oh, there's those things that I could totally do that a little bit better, but it's easy to lose sight of it just in the day-to-day moments.
I like to think of sleep as kind of a magical potion, that it's something that, of course, you don't always have control over what time you can get to bed and how much you have going on in life. But I find that oftentimes I have more control over it, than I like to admit to myself. And when I do go to bed at a time that I know I'm going to get an adequate amount of sleep, and I do that especially on a recurring basis, over time, all of a sudden I notice that everything in my life is working better. I'm able to think more clearly. My relationships improve. My results at work improve. My connections with myself and with other people. My eating patterns. My exercise patterns. I mean, it really, that's what I mean by like magic potion. And it's something that is a right. It's a human right, I believe, being able to have a night's sleep. Like we talked about, not allowing people to sleep, it has been used, in so many ways. And, it's literally punishment. Why are we punishing ourselves by depriving ourselves of sleep?
Totally. And so, and there's chapters of life for people, like if you're a parent to, a little one.
Of course, yes.
There's those chapters where, it's sad, and there's kind of no way around it. You're going to have those times where you're sleep deprived, but absolutely, like you can't do that forever. And so I guess what I'm saying is there's those pieces that are a little bit out of your control if you're in that phase of life. But I think if you have the pieces you have control over, you gotta like show up for yourself in that way, whatever it is, to be a rested human so that you feel good first and foremost, and then that you can kind of be the best version of you for yourself, your people, your loved ones, every like aspect that you need to show up in life. You're going to be the best version if you get that daily reset. That's what it is. It's like you said, the magic potion. I love it because that is, I think, when you think of all the things in life we do to make ourselves feel the best, I can't think of anything that makes me feel as renewed as just sleeping.
Truly. Truly. Yeah. And like you said earlier with caffeine, it cannot be replaced with anything else. We can, in the short term, find temporary energy bursts, with other things. Like when I was in college, I was drinking, energy drinks here and there. And I was like, okay, this will get me through, this like assignment or this day or whatever it may be. But there is literally no replacement for sleep.
Absolutely.
And I also think of it as a great gift to give someone the gift of sleep. I'm thinking about family members who have had babies, and they're in that stage you were just talking about where they're like, there's so much out of your control. You're just doing your best to take care of your kids. And for a family member to offer, hey, why don't I, come over and you can sleep during the night and I'll kind of take care of the baby, or even just, gifting your husband the silk pillowcase that you were seeing. He's sleeping more deeply. He's falling asleep faster. He feels more rested when he wakes up. To be able to gift someone, let's say your partner, a silk pillowcase. I know it seems like a small gift, but how huge is that to give someone more restful sleep? I think it's beautiful.
I totally agree. It's one of those things, it doesn't come across as a big thing, but when it's somebody's daily item that's making an impact on their life, it's like, it's invaluable.
Absolutely. I want to talk about connection. You mentioned, connections and relationships, and that it's so much more difficult to do that when you're underslept. As far as intimacy goes, and any type of intimacy in a relationship, let's just say in a partnership, How do you find that sleep impacts intimacy specifically?
Yeah, I don't have a ton of hands-on experience with this with clients at this time yet, but I do see that intimacy, it's hard to want that level of intimacy with your partner if you are exhausted. And I think I think about people I know that are in chapters, right, with their little ones and things like that. There's ebbs and flows in relationships in general, and that's normal to not have the same type of intimacy levels in every single stage of life.
Yeah.
But I think that sleep plays a huge factor in that. So when you look at where in the trajectory of a marriage intimacy levels go up and down, it's really high in the beginning, and then as soon as couples have their first child, it goes way down.
Yeah.
Which is normal.
It happens.
And expected. I think we're all somewhat aware of that.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that everybody's thrilled about it, but I think if you have the mindset well, this is a chapter, it's easier to get through versus when does this ever
It's
change
forever.
or go back to the way things were. And so then intimacy can go up again when the children basically get to ages where they're sleeping through the night. Because if they're sleeping through the night, generally so are mom and dad.
Yeah.
So what's the biggest correlation there on intimacy?
Right.
Probably a sleep level is a big part of that. Not the only
That's
part,
huge.
but I imagine it's, a huge piece of that puzzle.
Yes.
Because we know what it's like, right? We can probably all relate to maybe functioning on a day of 4 hours of sleep.
Oh, yeah.
When you finally get through your day, at least as a woman, I know what I want to do at the end of the day.
Going to sleep.
It's just go to bed.
Yep.
So I think that's generally a relatable feeling.
I think it's highly relatable. Yes.
Yeah. So it's important. I saw something recently about women who get an extra hour of sleep per day. Maybe this is based off women. I don't know the exact standards if this was based off women who are already getting 8 hours of sleep or if they don't.
Okay.
But if they get an extra hour of sleep per day, their desire for intimacy goes up by 14%.
Really?
And so I saw
That's
it as
significant.
a joke video where the husband was like, "Go take a nap, go sleep."
I feel like that could be a skit where he's handing her, a Blissy pillowcase, and he's like, "Honey,
please go get your beauty rest." Yeah. But it's so true, right? It's again, it just goes back to it's our foundational thing that lets us be able to show up and function as a human. And even intimacy. Intimacy is not a daily task that you have to, it's, I think can be viewed as it's necessary to keep your relationship healthy, but it's not a daily thing that has to happen. So it's kind of an extra, kind of not. It's this interesting in between.
Yeah.
But your relationship functions better when that can be a regular part. But I think you have to have other things that fall into place before that can regularly happen in a way everybody's comfortable with.
If a couple is feeling disconnection, feeling like they're not having enough time with each other, enough attention with each other, do you feel like maybe assessing how much sleep you're both getting is a good place to start?
Absolutely. I think that there's a number of things you look at if that's the primary concern that a couple's coming in with. But yeah, asking about some of those basic functions, that's something I would do in a first session with a couple and just kind of find out what does your daily life look like, because it's super easy to feel like a lack of connection if we've got all these other factors that may actually have nothing to do with your relationship together. We know you love each other. We know that the passion, the commitment, all of that is there. But what are some of these other factors that we're facing? Sleep kind of ties in with it's one of your most basic human needs. So if you look at the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right, it's one of the most basic ones. So if those basic needs aren't met, you can't even reach the other levels of needs in life, which would be intimacy or this emotional connection. You can't worry about that if you're exhausted, if you don't have water, if you are hungry. You got to fulfill the first order first.
Yep. Just that getting back to basics. I love that.
Yeah.
I also want to ask about a hobby of yours. I know that you are so into books, into reading. I think that is so beautiful. I was checking out her socials earlier, Kendall Reads, and it is just so fun to see all of the different genres and stories and also accessories, and kind of all of the little tips and tricks that you have for creating a really great reading lifestyle and great reading environment in your home. Can you tell us a little bit about your, how do you snuggle up and read a book?
Yes. Very avid reader, and I am a big Kindle user. So, that is just something I love, and I do have a little setup that I love to use for that. So for me, I love to read in bed. It's my way to unwind at night, to not be on my phone or things like that, right? And so I will often I have this holder. It's called the gooseneck tablet holder, and it's got an adjustable arm or neck, whatever.
Yeah,
and
kind of similar to this in a way.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And so how this clips onto this table, that clips onto my headboard or your nightstand, whatever, and you set it up and you get the little remote control page turner for the Kindle.
Yeah, I heard that was a must for you.
It's a must for me. Yeah. I got it recently and I should have gotten it sooner because it's incredible. You don't have to have it. You could lay there in bed and hold your Kindle if you want to. But
my arm gets tired.
It does. And then you're kind of stuck laying on a side and moving. And so I set this up right in front of my face. This is also part of good posture for me instead of being all scrunched. So that's kind of, I also think that, right? So I've got it there. I've got the remote control page turner. I can literally be laid back in bed on my pillow, on my silk pillowcase, holding my little remote all cozy and just read.
Oh my gosh.
Click the page like that. I find I read more when I'm comfortable.
Yes.
Too. I will continue reading versus getting over it because something's not right.
That makes sense. If you're physically uncomfortable, if you're having to twist or crank your neck, or I notice the surface I'm on makes a big difference too. If I'm noticing that my lower back isn't supported, or if my butt hurts, that I'm not going to sit there and read as long. I can't get lost in the book.
Yes, totally. And so that for me is being comfortable means everything. So whether it's in bed or whatever I'm doing, I like to have a comfortable setup, for out and about. I mean, my Kindle's in my purse right now.
Is it?
Just in case.
What are you reading right now?
What am I reading? Oh, I have an advanced reader copy right now of The Unmaking of June Farrow, and it's coming out in October.
Oh, okay. So you're having the preview.
Oh. Yeah. Yes. So
you have the inside scoop here.
I'm also listening to the Throne of Glass series on audiobooks. So that's fun. It's a fantasy series.
Oh, I love that. We live in California, so there's a lot of drive time, and I love having both a physical book that I'm reading that I usually am in bed, or sometimes on the weekends I'll take it out to the couch area. But audiobooks are everything, I think, when you have a long commute.
So such a great way to spend your time. I love finding ways to make my time feel more, I don't know, it was more meaningful or useful. And so for me to feel I listened to that on my drive was I was more relaxed on the drive. Yeah. Right? And then it was fun.
Yeah, it's fun too. I know that we live in a day and age where there's kind of almost an obsession with the hustle and productivity. And recently I was thinking about, okay, what nourishes me and my life? Sometimes it is what some people would call productive, and sometimes it's not. For me, an example is gardening. I love getting out in the garden. I love getting my hands in the soil. It's something that I grew up with, doing with my mom. And I've noticed it's very nourishing for me. So depending on the person you ask, is it productive? I mean, I get things planted, I weed, there is productivity happening, but more importantly, I notice that it's nourishing for me, and I love that books are that for you.
Yeah, well, I love hearing that too, and just the way that you phrase it, because I think that is so important to have whatever it is that's your little something to reground yourself a little bit and have something that's nourishing to the soul that doesn't need to be any part of a side hustle or whatever. Just do something you enjoy that brings you a peacefulness, a happiness. So for me, that's books. And I mean, gardening is something I would like to try.
Oh, you should.
In the future.
I mean, I'm biased, but I really believe that everybody should at least try having a garden at some point. Yeah. It's really such a beautiful, satisfying experience. You also learn so much about yourself through the process and just about nurturing in general in life. And some people might call your hobby productive. Some people might call your hobby a waste of time, but that's okay because it's your hobby. It's not their hobby.
Exactly. And I think that the part of a hobby should be that it doesn't have to have some big grand thing at the end for it to be fulfilling to you.
Yes.
It can just be just because that's what makes your soul happy and your cup is full. Like, that's the point. And I think that that's like, it's great if you have a hobby that also, I think many people can turn their hobby into their side hustle or their little other thing, right? And that's cool. If you want to do that, there's nothing wrong with that. But I think you can often lose the joy of what got you into it in that process if it kind of becomes something bigger. So I think it's really positive to have something that's truly just for nothing else in life other than I love it. And that's the only reason you need to have. Like, I love doing that.
And I love it that when we refresh, reset, re-energize ourselves, we're able to show up in the world in such a beautiful way. I appreciate giving your thoughts on sleep, on mental health, even on books. Can we find you online anywhere?
Yeah, if you're interested in like my little book hobby, I do have a book talk account. So it's at Kendall's Reads on TikTok.
Awesome.
And we chat about books. And if you want to see the book setup I was talking about, that's all there too.
If you had one takeaway for viewers today on the importance of sleep on your mental health, what would it be?
We touched on so many amazing points of sleep and how to have that be the best it can be. But I think it's really setting up a comfortable, successful environment for you to start, right? Just giving yourself that baseline of whatever it is you need to be comfortable, whether it be the lighting, your sheets, your pillowcase, the temperature. Just take a moment to evaluate what that thing is for you to have a better sleeping environment.
So simple, but can make all the difference, right?
Absolutely. Makes a world of difference.
I love that. One of my biggest takeaways from our conversation, I think, is that when we prioritize self-care in the sense of sleep, refreshing ourselves, re-energizing ourselves through good sleep, we can show up in the world in a much healthier, much more beautiful way. So thank you for sharing your expertise, your stories, your insights. I've loved our conversation so much. This is Kendall Ferrari, and I'm Ariana Escalante here with the Blissy Experience. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe to our podcast. This is still in the early stages, so you're like one of the original subscribers. We would love to have you part of our community. Please let us know if you have questions, ideas for future episodes. We are all ears and we're very, very involved with our community. So we're so grateful to have you here. And also be sure to check out blissy.com and try out your Blissy silk pillowcase. It makes all the difference in the world. You're going to get the best sleep of your life. So be sure to check it out and we'll see you on the next episode. Bye.